Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
This is my top 5 films from the Final Destination franchise. This is a franchise that, I definitely forgot about more of the films than I remembered. Let's put it that way. But it's an interesting franchise. I'm glad I revisited it. There are only 5 movies so far as I'm recording this. I'm sure there'll be more. There's only 5 films in the franchise, so I'll be ranking all 5 of them, obviously. But it's a franchise that's interesting. It's an interesting franchise because the premise is basically the same in every film. You have a kid. I mean, it's a teen horror slasher franchise. And one of the lead characters, in some movies, it's a male character. In others, it's a female character. But they will have a premonition, and there will be an elaborate action horror tragedy that happens. And this character will have a premonition of that and save a cross-section of random people that were involved in that situation. And because they survive this tragedy, the monster of the film, which is an invisible monster known as Death, has to clean up the mess and clean up these loose ends, these people who took the design of Death and erased it from history. So Death is having to clean up the loose strings that happen. So it's mainly a lot of interesting deaths. Death scenes are really cool. It should be. I mean, that should be one of the hallmarks of a Final Destination film. Just a crazy death scene. You're going to see usually just a crazy tragedy that happens at the beginning of the film. And there's a bunch of usually a bunch of Rube Goldberg kind of situations that happen, these things that happen one after another, scenarios that happen of suspense. That's like a movie chocked full of what's that guy's name? God, what's the name of that? It's the idea, Chekhov's gun. It's like this movie of Chekhov's guns, and misdirections and things that seem like a misdirection, but it's not. Just great, right? Building tension, crazy death. That's what this movie franchise is. And some movies do it better than others, sadly. It's weird the things that these movies from movie to movie kind of change and alter and things like that. That being said, let's get into it. My top 5 of the Final Destination franchise, starting off with number 5. This is my least favorite movie in the Final Destination franchise, and that film is The Final Destination, which is the movie that came out 4th in the series. This is a movie that starts off with the big tragedy is a NASCAR event. A big accident happens at NASCAR, and the random group of people that end up being saved are just the group of people that happen to be in the bleachers in that area where the teens have the premonition. It's clearly done for 3D. Bad 3D, bad CGI, dumb characters. One of the characters is a white dude that literally has a swastika on his tattoo on his shoulder, on his arm, and actually says the N-word calls the black character, the token black character, the N-word. So just over the top characters. You have the black character in this, similarly to the second Final Destination, where there's a character who tries to kill himself because he doesn't want to leave it in the hands of death to take his life. Like, he wants to maintain control, but is unable to. So in this movie, kind of brings that back, except for it's like, this dude has tried to kill himself in every way, and nothing's works. Kind of goofy. But just overall bad. Bad acting. Horrible CG. Like, instead of premonitions, it's like dreams. And all of the dreams are like really low quality. What you would get in like a basic 3D animated GIF. I don't know. Like, you don't see animated graphics as low quality as you see in this movie. And just scenes like just clearly done so they can throw stuff at the camera because it's trying to capitalize on the short-lived 3D film fad that went on for a few years after Avatar, or around that time, which I don't mind. This series would make sense to be done in 3D as long as it's done well, and not like pandering to that bit of technology. But yeah, pretty much horrible in every way, this movie. Just really bad. Moving on to number 4. This is a movie where I feel the franchise started to go bad. This is a movie that starts off with the tragedy being a roller coaster. And this movie is Final Destination 3, coming in at number 4, Final Destination 3. This one is, like I said, it starts off at the theme park, where a roller coaster, like, just craziness happens on a roller coaster. Everything goes wrong, which is kind of cool. You know, just having the setting of just a carnival being the setting for the intro for a Final Destination film just leads itself to so many things that could go wrong. And just like having elaborate deaths, which this one's not done in the best way. Whatever, it's Final Destination. They're not working with Avatar budgets or anything like that. But also this one changed the idea, the premise a bit, in that it's not a character having premonitions as much as it's a character who takes pictures with their camera, digital camera, and the camera is just so happens to capture an image that gives you clues to what's going to happen. So then there's a big use of the Twin Towers. There's a picture of the Twin Towers that she took, and it just happens to have a shadow of a plane on it. So it's like, oh, look, we could have predicted 9/11. And it's just like all of these things, but it's just the camera is predicting it. So because of that, it knocks it down, because it's not even sticking to what the movie is. It's like, you have to have a kid that has premonitions, not my digital camera just picks them up. There's a death scene in tanning beds that, while gives you the view of naked breasts, does not really exist in real life, because tanning beds in this movie apparently heat up. Like, that's how you get your tan in a tanning bed. It's in the same idea as baking a potato. You just turn up the heat and you get fried. Not that the ultraviolet rays that come off of the tanning booth, I mean, it may warm up a bit, but it's not like you're getting baked in the tanning booths. But that's how they die, which is an interesting thing. It's an interesting death. But this is kind of like, it's starting to go the way of like, oh, right. It's just, it's a cookie cutter. Like, let's do, it just feels like tired. It starts to feel a little bit tired by Final Destination 3. But yeah, so that's coming in at my number 4. Is Final Destination 3. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. Moving on to my number 3 favorite Final Destination film. This one is the last installment, Final Destination 5. I feel this one is a return to the franchise. It has premonitions back. It has strong male and female characters. It has Tony Todd giving a little bit of a cameo, where in the first 2 films, Tony Todd, who was the man who played the original Candyman, he plays in this franchise a creepy mortician. But then in 5 just shows up, has a cameo in a funeral scene, but still is the one who expresses the what the villain of these movies is, which is death and the design of death, and that it has a plan. So it's like, whereas the first 2 films and Final Destination 5 all kind of work within that, oh, death has a plan, death is the villain. And then some of the movies kind of make villains out of people. Like, they still, like, the studios are like, well, we can't just have death being the only villain. We actually need to personify evil in some way. So I think Final Destination 5 kind of has that character. There's definitely characters that are unlikable. There's an acupuncture scene that's amazing. It's a very unlikable. I think the stunts in this are turned up to 11. This one starts off, they're on a bus trip. They're on a big bridge in a bus, and there's a premonition of like, basically like a Minority Report, or a end of like a Tom Cruise on a bridge getting thrown into a car from an explosion. Like that kind of big time action scene. You know, not really done in the best way, but at least it's trying to turn the action up to 11. So that's a crazy kind of beginning, like just definitely turning that beginning tragic event into a big spectacle. You get to see the truck from the first one. The Drink Responsibly, there's a couple cameos. The acupuncture scene was crazy. There's an addition. They kind of made an addition to the rule set of the films, that you can kill somebody. If you kill somebody, they take your place. So instead of you dying in your order, you can kill somebody and they take your place for dying. Like it's a death that's acceptable apparently. And because of that because of that rule change, it creates a villain, because it creates a guy that wants to have people take his place, which makes more sense for creating a villain. I don't think you need to do it, but it's a nice addition to the kind of overall rule set that they can, you know, grow the franchise a little bit more, give it a little bit more breathing room. But yeah, it was. I was surprised, especially after watching Final Destination 3 and the Final Destination, just how horrible those were. I was almost expecting this one to be the worst, and it wasn't. It was really surprising how much I enjoyed it and how good it was. It really went to the original essence of the first 2 films. So that comes in at number 3, Final Destination 5 at number 3. My number 2 Final Destination film is the original Final Destination. That is right. Devon Sawa is the kid with the premonitions. He's going on a field trip with his classmates to Paris, but he gets a premonition of the plane exploding and gets everybody off the plane. You got early Stifler, and it's just an interesting cast of characters in this one. You get all of the tension that's built up with the constant like the constant Chekhov's gun of everything being like the pool on the ground, like, and that's growing, like they're gonna slip. It's like, oh no, that's not the thing that's gonna take him out. He's shaving with a razor. That's it. He's gonna accident. Oh nope, that's not it. Like, it's constantly playing with the idea of like, oh, you know what's going on? No, you don't know what's going on yet. Oh, we think you're gonna do it this way? Is this how they're gonna die? Nope, that's not how they're gonna die, but it's gonna be, by the end of it, that's gonna be part of it. And when this whole mousetrap gets sprung, it's gonna be so satisfying when you're seeing that kid hanging in his bathtub, you know, his feet slipping on the shampoo that you saw squirt out earlier. Like, really interesting way to use, like, to really express the villain of this film, death, in an interesting way. You don't have Freddy Krueger, you don't have Jason, you don't have Michael Myers. Death is just like this ambiguous idea, this thing, like almost like it's if you took Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and you mix that with The Happening, and you mix those together, then you kind of have the Final Destination franchise, where it's like a breeze coming through the frame can mean some bad things are going to happen. But just a lot of fun, great suspense. It really set the franchise off. Also, Ali Larter. Not only Sawa having the premonitions, Ali Larter starts having premonitions. So it doesn't just reside with one person being able to sense what's going on. You got the FBI trying to figure things out, which they don't show up at all until the last one. The FBI, like, trying to investigate these strange things that are happening. So yeah, number 2 is the original Final Destination film, which leads only one film to be number 1, my favorite of the Final Destination franchise, Final Destination 2. And the main reason this one is above Final Destination is because they ramped up the death scenes in this one. It is crazier death scenes. You're still getting all of the lead up to the things that are happening, where it's like you think this guy's going to get it, then no. But it starts off with I mean, it's a classic. In my opinion, classic just scene is the log truck scene in the beginning of this film. That's the tragedy that happens. It's this group of kids going on vacation, and on the freeway, there's this log truck. The logs start falling off, and just what becomes an epic car crash pileup scene. And then that's the premonition that this girl has that sets everything into motion. But all of the deaths are pretty crazy. There's one where this guy wins the lottery, and it's like his apartment starts on fire, and it's like all of these things, and it like keeps going, where it's like, oh, he's just safe. He's just safe. He's just safe. And then right when you least expect it, things happen. Same thing with like a big pane of glass that flattens a guy. There's just really iconic death scenes in the second one that I think really set it off. You also have Ali Larter coming back, as the only survivor between the first one and the second one. There's a news article in this one that explains Devon Sawa's death. Like, him and Ali Larter, they were going out, their characters, Clear Rivers, and I forget his name, or Clear River is her name, which is a weird name, which they named a water supply company in a future movie. I forget which one. I think it was The Final Destination. But while walking down the street, a random brick lands on Devon Sawa's head and kills him. Or his character, I'm sorry. So Ali Larter's the only one. She checks herself into a mental institution, into a padded room, but somehow is given yarn, which she could have killed herself with the yarn, but that's okay. She's kind of playing like I'm trying to think of her name from Terminator 2, where she was, the survivor, and she's like working out. She's all jacked in her cell. Anyway, similar kind of a vibe for this one with Ali Larter. She's in a padded room, but she's been following this death's plan. So she goes to Tony Todd. She goes back to the creepy mortician so he can explain to this new group of kids about death's design. So you're still getting all the same implements as the first one, the premonitions, which she can have, but it's adding that there was a ripple effect. There's a butterfly effect that when Devon Sawa's character took everybody off that plane, that the people that survived also helped other people survive that would have in turn died. And the second film is about that second wave of people that's how they're related to the original airplane tragedy, is that they are all people that were saved in some way by somebody that survived from that original tragedy. Very interesting way to kind of extend out the universe and keep the movie going in general, which none of the other movies really take the time to connect the dots, as it were. But yeah, the kills are amazing. Ali Larter, a huge crush. I had a huge crush on Ali Larter in my early 20s. She wasn't in much, but I don't know. I'm a huge Ali Larter fan as a 20-year-old and early 20s as these movies were coming out. So that's also a plus. But yeah, Final Destination 2 is my favorite of the franchise. Let me go through my top 5 one more time. Number 5 is The Final Destination. Number 4 is Final Destination 3. Number 3 is Final Destination 5. Number 2 is Final Destination. And my number 1 Final Destination film in the Final Destination franchise is Final Destination 2. Go check them out. I think they're all streaming on HBO Max right now. But it's a fun franchise, and I think that you could do a lot of cool things with that premise. I mean, it's very similar. It's just like a subgenre. It's just like you have you have this little template of how to do everything. Just follow the template. Put in some things like, oh, we're probably a ripple effect from Flight 182. Fine. You don't just set it up however, but it's all about these kids having premonitions. You really got to set up. That's one thing they did towards the end of this franchise, aside from 5, is that they made the build up to the kills meaningless. Like there's so many scenes in like the Final Destination where it's like all this build up, like crazy things happen, and then it was for nothing because it's just like this other thing is what killed them. I don't know. It really went downhill, but then the kind of the re-flourish with Final Destination 5 gave me hope. Obviously, Tony Todd should be in all of these. If only to just give the lines like, oh, this is Death's design, or some variation of that. But yeah, it's a fun show. I mean, they really should be focused on cool deaths, interesting deaths. I mean, it's very similar in a lot of ways to Saw, how the death scenes are kind of the biggest like draw to go see that movie. Like, what are the interesting death scenes? Like, that's what this should be as well. Except for it's just an ominous breeze that comes through. Get Mark Wahlberg to whisper in the background. But yeah, that's it. My top 5 Final Destination films. Let me know how you rank the Final Destination franchise. in the comments. Hit me up on social media. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Follow the show on Instagram. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!